welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
We are in England, and we're not on Zoom.
No, that's a new thing.
I know, and you're not in Copenhagen, and I'm not in America.
Yeah.
We're outside of London. So this is actually a lot nicer than the last time we podcasted.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so let me do this. The last time we were on, we talked a lot about your story and who you are and what you do, but maybe you could give us just a little refresher. Tell everybody who you are and where you live and like what you do for the Vineyard Nordic Association of Churches.
Okay, you said like 4 things, so
I know,
try to remember.
And I'm trying not to talk super fast.
Okay, well, my name is Maria. I live in Copenhagen. I am worship pastor in Copenhagen Vineyard, but I'm also the leader of Vineyard Nordic Worship, which consists of 4 countries, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland.
That's amazing. And how long have you done that?
Oh, can't remember. I think maybe 8 years, something.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the first time I met you, you were in that position. I think we met first in Oregon at Cannon Beach.
Which you referred to one of the best memories of wine tasting.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That day that it was me and you and Jason and Morton. There's a couple of other people there.
Yeah.
One of the best experiences of my life. I'll just tell everybody this because the story is worth it. We went to this really beautiful winery because this was after the retreat, right?
It was before the retreat because we were jet lagged and we needed to have an extra day before coming to the retreat.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Before the retreat, we were headed to the retreat in Oregon, and we went to this really beautiful winery called Patricia Green, and they make amazing Pinot Noirs. But this is why it was the best. The guy opens up so many different bottles, and he's letting us taste them, and then we buy some, and then he goes back, and at one point he goes back because someone had said, was it you or Morton? It was you.
Me.
You said, "What does your wine taste like when it's old?" And he was like, "Well, just wait a minute." And he goes back and he gets a bottle of 2005, and we open it. And it was so beautiful. And then we're at the end of the tasting. They want you to buy some wine, which is it's only right, and someone in the group said, "Hey, could we maybe buy some of the 2005?" And he said, "Oh, that was my last bottle." And we were all stunned, weren't we?
Yeah.
I felt like stunned, and I was a little weepy because I was like, "Gosh, what kindness!" Such a beautiful day.
Yeah.
And that's when we got to know each other.
Exactly.
And the other thing I remember from that was this when Morton, your husband, first was like, "I'm now a wine person"?
Yes. He went to a vineyard retreat and came back as a wine person.
There's a kind of poetry in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
I love that. Well, listen, all I really wanted to do today is I wanted to catch up because you're one of my favorite people. And
thank you.
I just love, I've gotten to be with you and your husband, and I've gotten to actually go to Copenhagen, and I've hung out with the Nordic people. And there's something special in your all's world. And I want to share that more and more with our Vineyard family in the States. So Maria, would you just tell us maybe a little bit about what's happening, I don't know, in the Nordic region, whatever top of mind, whatever seems significant or important. I just want to continue building this imagination for a Vineyard global family.
Sure. What comes to the top of my head is that we are having 4 summer camps this year.
Okay. First, you probably should tell everybody what is summer camp, right?
And I'm going to explain now why this is significant for this year. We have a tradition in Vineyard Nordic to gather for a full week for summer camp for families and everyone. It's not just a conference, it's really a camp for the Vineyard family.
Do people camp out?
Yes.
Like
we will
tents?
be in tent a whole week. Some will go with caravans and some will stay in rooms depending on how much you enjoy outdoor life.
Yeah.
And it's a big tradition. And we've done it for, I think, 25 years as a Nordic.
And where do you normally do it at?
We do it in Sweden.
Okay.
Because that's the cheapest place to do it. Norway is super expensive.
Okay, so why is Sweden the cheapest place, though?
I don't know.
It just is.
The economy is in a way where it's just different for us.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's also central. If you're coming from Finland, Norway, and Denmark, if you look at a map and see, it's kind of in the middle.
Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense that we go there every year.
Yeah.
But for many years, we've been talking about kind of pushing the national pedal and trying to give more resources to each country. And then we were kind of forced to, during COVID, we couldn't meet.
Yeah.
We had a couple of years where it was not possible to do summer camps. And we were able to do a summer camp in Denmark, but there was a cap of 500 people because of COVID. And they did something similar in Sweden that was unofficial, I think.
Yeah.
But they decided, okay, we're going to try out for each country to have their own national camp. And what we experienced in Denmark it was really like a historic moment for us as a Danish movement to be together. And we are not, I think we are 7 churches in Denmark. It's not like the States or in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think I was just trying to count. I actually don't know how many churches. I think we're about maybe 25 or something.
Okay, in
27
the whole Nordic
in the
area?
whole Nordic.
Yeah.
But there was something very significant about being together we have a language problem. We speak Danish and Swedish and Norwegian and Finnish. So we have to speak English when we're together. Well, the Norwegians, they understand Danish and Swedish. The Swedish, they will give up if we start to speak Danish, and no one understands the Finns. So, and if you even think, what do you model in worship? Because we want to make worship accessible, but you can't do all Finnish songs or all Danish songs. So we sing English songs.
Gosh, that's so strange.
It's so strange. And I'm like, trying to twist people's arms and say, please sing at least one song in your native language to model, this is who we are. And there's something about the language of the heart where, to me, to sing a surrender song, to sing that in English, it doesn't hit as hard as if I sing it in Danish. It simply doesn't. It doesn't connect with me in the same way.
Of course not. So for years you've gotten together, and because there's the language barrier, you've always spoken in English, which is not a native language for anyone.
Well, I would say the younger people speak English. The older one, they are like, no, we can do this. And they keep trying. And then the rest of us, we just give up.
Yeah.
So, and also, if you, for example, had a sermon and you had to have it translated, it became very long. So now we have translations for 4 or 5 different languages every time.
Oh my gosh. And then what do people preach in?
English.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I mean, I was there, and I guess, I experienced this, but Maria, I didn't put it together.
Yeah.
I'm so stupid. I wasn't really thinking about what was happening.
Yeah.
Of course.
Why would you? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking, English, of course. It's normal for me, but it's not for anyone else in the room.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So I think that's part of also why it was so significant to just be together as a country. But it also felt like God was, in the spiritual world, putting us together as a national entity somehow.
Yeah.
And we had all the Danish churches coming together and sharing stories from their churches, and we could pray for each church. And another thing I also saw was, usually I'm the one who's doing all the coordination and the vision casting for like who's going to lead worship for a full week. How do we get all the countries represented?
Yeah.
How are we not just putting the best people on stage? How are we, putting up people to train them, but we don't want to take it over, like building something pastorally, but also casting vision, all that stuff. But now, when you have a full week where you don't have as big of a pool, it actually means that more people get to play, which was awesome. And you can see that it meant the world of a difference, that I could say, okay, now this church tonight, you are leading the rest of us. It's not just one person from your church.
Right.
You guys are leading. And they were so proud.
Yeah.
In a good way. Like it made them grow.
Yeah.
So, and that also just showed me that if we go national with some stuff and try it, it's making each country grow, because they can't just count on the rest of the countries to step in and,
You're growing up new leaders.
Yeah.
It's putting that pressure in a good way for your leaders.
And now they are feeling it. Like we are having I don't know when this is going to be sent, but next Monday, the Norwegian very first summer camp is going to start, and the finish.
Are you going?
I'm going to the Norwegian
Okay.
for the full week.
Yeah.
Then there's a week's break, and then the Danish one starts.
Okay.
And then when that's done, the Swedish one starts. So I'm going
Wow.
to only 2, and that's
Denmark and
I'm
Norway.
getting a little bit schizophrenic about full week here and there. But
Okay. So are you going to camp out on both of them?
no,
Good for you. Good for
we
you.
will be staying in a room for the
Yes.
first one,
Uh-huh.
and then we'll be in a tent for the second one.
Oh, so when you're in Denmark, you're going to camp
Yeah.
with your kids?
Yes, it's the cheapest.
Okay. And do the kids like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think after that, we are done with camping until next year.
Yeah, that's right. One camping trip is enough for mom and dad.
Yeah.
Scratches the itch, get it done.
Yeah, and then also when you're doing worship and have to show up for rehearsals and fixing stuff, and you're in a tent and you have to make food, and
Yeah,
it's
that's a
very
lot.
authentic and like living the life on the edges
Yes, that's right. It's like Christiania.
without the weed.
By the way, if you're listening to this episode, please just go on maybe YouTube and type in Christiania. It's a little section of Copenhagen, and it's so interesting. It's like counterculture.
And I need to say, it doesn't reflect anything about what Copenhagen Vineyard is like, because then you will be a little bit upset.
Yeah, that's
maybe.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the disclaimer. We're
Yes.
putting it in now. Maria, you said there's 7 churches in Denmark,
Yeah.
and maybe 25 or 30 in the whole Nordic region. Just talk to me about what it means to be a Christian in this part of the world. Because like where I'm from, Maria, there's a lot of vineyards, but in my county, which is really small, there's over 100 churches. So there's just churches like everywhere. And that doesn't mean that everybody lives like a Christian or acts like Jesus, but we're thoroughly soaked in the Jesus story. So just talk to me about like, what does it mean to be a Christian in Denmark? How does that feel? And then when you come to some place like the UK or the States, what are some things you notice culturally?
Yeah, I think we are definitely more close to the UK, also religious-wise, than we are to the States, because I grew up as, being the only one who was a Christian in class. That was normal. You're used to be the strange one who believes that God created the world.
Yeah.
And you have to defend it. Growing up as a teenager, always being the only one who was not getting drunk.
Yeah.
Being the only one who wasn't doing like crazy stuff in the weekends.
Yeah.
So you're just used to being trying to defend yourself all the time, or like explaining why.
Mm-hmm.
Denmark is a Christian country, but it's a cultural Christian.
Right.
Like
you have the state church.
We have the state church, but it's a political institution. So the politicians can change laws and say, well, now the church has to do this and this.
Right. So what do your neighbors think about you and Morten? You're Christians. You've got these little boys, and they're Christians. Some of your boys are big now,
Yeah.
And you lead summer camp. You're a worship leader. You sing worship songs, and you travel to other countries. I mean, that must feel different to them.
Yeah. So it basically means, for example, I just went to a reunion for my old high school.
Yeah. Okay. What year? How long?
25. I was 18.
That means you're about my age, Maria.
You know that.
Oh, I know that.
But you are a little bit older.
I am older.
Yeah.
I am older. That's so good, though. I love hearing this. I love that you went. Good.
Well, it was really fun.
Yeah.
But you sit with the choice of, you're going to have the round like, oh, what are you doing now in your life? And I was saying to my friend, who's also a Christian, because I was in the rare situation that we were actually 2 out of 28 people.
Yeah.
So I can say I'm a pastor.
Yeah.
And they will all be like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And nothing else, because what they will think is that I'm a pastor in a state church.
Yeah.
A pastor in a state church does not have to believe in God.
Yeah.
It's a job, but they have to have studied theology and gone through all this stuff.
Sure.
You can believe whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you have to follow the liturgy of the state church. You have to wear this black thing on Sunday and follow a certain rule of like watch piece of the Bible are you going to preach from?
Right.
But I actually just recently heard, because I don't know that much of the state church, that you have to preach from there's a plan for the whole year. But some pastors, they'll just read out the verse and then they say whatever they want after. I mean, as long as you've just read the lines, it's fine. I mean,
yeah. And so they do weddings, they do funerals, they offer communion, but like it doesn't matter really what you think.
Yeah. So to most people, church is the place that if you want a religious wedding, you get married in the church.
Yeah.
You get your kid baptized. You don't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
You might go for Christmas.
Yeah.
And another thing that you might find interesting, because I thought about that, I've been listening to some of the podcast things from the Ferment, is that Easter is not a big thing.
Oh, say more about that. Like no one goes?
No, they don't care.
Okay, because like in the States, it's a very big deal.
And even for our church, it's not it's a Sunday where you can't find anyone there's an Easter holiday, and it's extended from, some have a holiday from like the Monday before Easter.
Okay.
And then you also have the Monday after the Easter.
Okay.
So no one's at home.
Everybody's traveling.
You're like begging for a sound engineer to show up and two people on worship.
See, this is why I love having these conversations and doing this podcast, because I never would have known that our Vineyard brothers and sisters are dealing with, these are just different challenges.
It's
we don't
completely Christmas.
Yeah.
I will need to start thinking about in September, who can I beg to be for the Christmas service, who are not traveling somewhere else to be with their family.
Right.
The sound guy is like, I need to get that in place in September.
Okay, and then if you want to have like a violin or a cello, you have to book them, right? Like call the conservatory and have someone come in.
No, we have someone from church, and the one she's usually not traveling anywhere.
Okay, so you actually have someone like that.
Yeah,
awesome.
But the worship leader and the sound engineer.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
That is so funny, Maria. Okay, yeah. So like Easter and Christmas, people in the States, like people who don't care anything about Jesus, or maybe are certainly not serious, maybe have never been to church, they'll go to church. Like you could say to your neighbor, it would be really normal. You could say to your neighbor who is not a Christian, hey, are you going to church on Christmas? You want to come with my family? And there's a very good chance that they would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just so we have to prep big time.
Yeah. But the Danish people, they will go for Christmas, but they will go to the state church.
Oh, got you.
Because we're too weird.
Oh, got you. So what is the general thinking about the Vineyard? How does it contrast? Like I'm sure it just, I guess when I say how does it contrast, what do people think versus maybe even what it really is?
They don't think anything.
Yeah.
Because they don't know.
Yeah.
You have to explain like the whole thing.
You have to explain to them, this is different. It's not the state church.
So going back to the thing about going to the 25th anniversary thing, I could decide, am I just going to say I'm a pastor? Done. Or I'm a worship pastor in a free church called the Vineyard, and then go into a 5-minute explanation about whatever that is.
Yes. Okay. And so if you were to say, I'm a worship pastor at a free church called the Vineyard, if you were to say those words in that order.
That's like 3 or 4 crazy words in a whole sentence.
Tell me the crazy ones.
Worship.
Yeah.
Vineyard. Free church.
Yeah. So that's clicking these boxes. What are people's assumptions from that sentence?
For some.
Yeah.
That's like crazy right-wing people.
Like you're a militia. you want to overthrow the government.
We've had
you're conservatives.
I think
close the borders.
I'll leave it with you guys.
Oh yeah.
But
I feel that. Okay. Solid burn.
But I think for us, it's sometimes like people saying something really stupid in the on social media, and it's spreading. Yes. And these dumb stories coming up of pastors not doing good stuff.
Right.
And if you're not in a free church, you see the free church concept as, they're all the same.
Yeah.
About like
fringe.
How do you govern this stuff? And
it's just fringe crazy people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's they're nonconformists. They're probably not serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also, you know, a lot of people are also interested, like, and what is this really? And then when I start talking more about it, and I was like, you're welcome to come by.
Yeah.
I rarely get anyone to come.
Yeah. Okay, so if someone does come and they see you, like they know you, you're Maria,
Yeah.
you're married to Morton, you have these handsome boys, you have a lovely home, you have a great backyard, and then they know you in that context. If they come and they see you lead worship, like you're like this powerful lady. When you lead
but
worship,
they don't really come. That's the thing.
okay. If they were to come and they saw you like that, what would they think? Is there anything in their brain that would prep them for God is meeting us? Like, because last night you led worship with Annabeth, one of the worship leaders here from the States, and it was awesome. It was so powerful. Like, would there be any imagination for God is meeting us in this moment and we're making a space to commune with the Holy Spirit?
I honestly don't know.
Oh, man.
But one thing we did last year, we were invited to do a Vineyard service on national television.
What?
Yeah.
How?
Because Denmark is a culturally Christian country.
Yes.
So they actually go to state churches, and they have they show a service, a regular with hymns and liturgy and all that.
Yes.
Sunday morning, for those who want to see that.
Yes.
I don't know how many does.
Yeah.
So we have an alliance of free churches in Denmark, who are also working to, put us in a good light politically, and how do we respond as free churches across church denominations.
Gotcha.
And they had approached them and say, what is a free church like? So they selected 4 churches. So they had a month of going to a church. And a church. But it was designed so you get 45 minutes, you can do whatever you want, but it has to be in the same church venue. So it was not ours, because they have all this gear, a truck full of stuff.
Yeah, so they set it up one time and you come in.
And we came in, and we were like, okay, what are we going to do? And so
talk to me about planning that.
That was interesting, because
how did you pick your songs?
Yeah. I picked something about the cross, something in Danish, something that was Vineyard, and that was homegrown.
Very good. That is high five. That's always my metric. So good. Something you guys wrote?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, in Danish.
Sung in Danish. And something from the Vineyard. Yeah. So you're giving them this broader Vineyard experience.
Yes. And so it was very geared towards if you have never set a foot in Vineyard Church. And
did
we
Fleming
did
preach?
Helle, do you remember Helle?
I do.
Yeah, she's an excellent preacher.
Yeah.
And she preached, and we had a kids worship song where we had kids doing movements.
Yeah, you guys do that. You guys do that at the beginning
to begin
of
with. Yeah. And we also, I think we probably we spent more than the 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're just okay, I'm just going to worship and see what God wants to do. So okay, we're going to continue. The Holy Spirit's doing something right now. But they cut it out.
Did your people come?
Yeah, but that was the tricky part, because they wanted to do it on a Monday afternoon.
Oh.
So we gathered as many people as we could, but it didn't really reflect a Sunday.
It's Monday. People are at work.
It's Monday. You can get the people who maybe are students and can get off early or something. But the interesting part was that when this was recorded, there was something I could say, okay, if you want to know what our church is like, there's actually, it's online for a year.
Yeah.
You just go and watch this.
Yes.
And I've had, people from Samuel, our 8-year-old's, friends, the family, oh, that's what you do. And oh, I actually went and Googled Vineyard Nordic worship, the songs. And I have, his friend who was 8 years old, he was just looking at me in awe ever since, oh, you're the one playing music. And he's starstruck now, and he's just my son's best friend. That's a little awkward. But that led to some more conversations, because it's so hard to get them, at least the ones that I know, inside our church. And maybe another thing is also, our church in Copenhagen is not local, because it's Copenhagen. It's the capital.
Yeah.
So we live in a suburb.
Yeah.
And there's a local state church there, and that's actually a really good charismatic state church.
Yeah.
So people could maybe go to churches that are closer. Like
Yeah.
you have to say, okay, I'm going to choose to go put myself in a car for 30 minutes to get into
Yeah.
the church. That might not mean a lot to you,
Yeah.
but in Denmark, that will mean something because you're used to being able to bike
Yeah.
in 15 minutes.
It's
Or
one of
if
the
you're
things I
bringing your
loved about
kids.
your country so much. I've told so many people this story. One of the things that I was very acutely aware of when we were in Copenhagen, this was strange for me. There was that afternoon where you took me with some of your friends, and we were sitting outside that restaurant. I think I was talking to a young man named John. He was really silly.
Yeah.
That guy was so funny.
Yeah.
But I was aware of it that day, and then some other days. Like it felt like we're in the middle of the city, but it's so quiet. I mean, there's a few cars around, but it's not like New York City or Chicago, because so many people are riding bikes. There's just this really peaceful atmosphere. Like, whereas in New York City, there'd be like honking and cars and diesel fumes, and like you feel the anxiety. And then in Copenhagen, I was not feeling the anxiety. I was feeling like, wow, this is amazing. And there's just thousands of bikes everywhere. Everybody's just, and I love the moms who are like, they got their tiny babies and they're in the front and they're just riding. They got their skirts on and they're just riding their bikes wherever they're going. It's so cool.
It's easier to ride your bike if you are in the center. Where we live, we need to either take bus or else it's like, for me, 45 minutes on bike, and that's a bit too long for my life to be coherent.
You need an e-bike.
Yeah, we have considered. No, but that's what people do. If they live where I live, it's an e-bike or a car. And they're making it more and more difficult to take cars in the city.
That's right.
Like, we have to drive slower and slower.
Yeah.
And there's so many places where you can't go now. It's just no cars.
Okay, well, let me shift gears again.
Yeah.
We really haven't talked since, I mean, it's been a while. We've had COVID. Things shut down. Things have come back online. You were talking about, you guys had the summer camp for like 25 years. You had to stop. Now you're breaking it apart so people can sing in their native languages and build a little identity. Just talk to me. Talk to me about coming back to church after COVID. Like, has that been slow? Has it been difficult? Have people been hungry to come back?
All of it.
Yeah.
In a mix.
Yeah, say
I would
more.
say. I think when people started to come back, they were super excited. And we as a leadership, we were super tired. It's like in your bones. You've been working so hard, being innovative and trying to gather people in other ways for so long.
Yeah.
We lost people during COVID.
Yeah, we did too.
And many of them have come back,
Yeah.
but not all of them have come back in the same way. Because before, you might have people say, yes, we're in Copenhagen Vineyard, and they would be people coming every Sunday and maybe every other Sunday. The same people say, yay, we go to Copenhagen Vineyard, that's my church. They will come every third Sunday or once a month.
Yeah.
And then you can tell the difference of like how many people are showing up on a Sunday, even though maybe the pool of people are the same. And we also have a lot of new people coming in.
Yeah.
So there's something about how people relate to being an active part of a church that's more difficult.
Yeah.
And how do you lead people when you can't follow up on what you, as a pastor, preached about last Sunday?
Yeah.
Or if we just talk about basic worship, how do you pastor people when you want to have songs they can recognize from last Sunday? Oh, but you weren't there last Sunday. Like, we usually before we would have this thing about, at least look at the set from last Sunday, so there's some coherence. At least one song is the same. Like, be nice to the people who are new.
Yeah.
But rules don't apply anymore, and we need to find out what to do about that. How to lead people in this season, and they don't like small groups. Like, where do you disciple people?
Yeah.
They're coming, but it's harder.
So we're just living in a space now where we need more innovation, don't we?
Yeah.
Like, it's a new day. Yeah. Have you gotten new leaders? Because one of the things that I think a lot of us in the States have experienced was through COVID, our church just kind of got blown up. Maybe the relationship that core people had with the church changed. Maybe even lost some. And then new people came. Like there's some new people who started coming to my church during COVID, which is so, like during the lockdown. They were like, we will finally go to the Vineyard in Campbellsville. It's like so strange.
Yeah.
And now everything's kind of back. And I think we finally gotten back to where we were before COVID in terms of like numbers and participation. But it feels different. It feels like a different church.
Yeah.
Right. So has any of that been the same for you? Have new people shown up and now they're like leading things that these other people were?
Yes.
You kind of like lost touch and.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's the same.
Yeah. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
I think so.
Yeah. I think so too. I've talked to, clearly people all over the States, and then talking to you, and then I've talked to the Brits and the Canadians, and there's something that happened, and I don't know if it's just Western culture or if it's just something that COVID did to church, but it really, really, shuffled the deck.
Yeah. But good stuff is happening as well.
That's right. Say something.
Yeah. I think the last year, but more even increasingly since the beginning of this year, we have sensed that like God's presence is more evident in every service.
How is that showing up?
It's, for example, we have morning services and we have evening services.
Yes.
And morning services are naturally for where there's most of the families with kids, because we have kids' church.
Yeah.
And then evening services are naturally for people without kids who don't want that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's since Copenhagen is a university city, that's lots of young students, but also older people. So in the morning, people are responding more to whatever God is doing, like showing, expressing, like reaching out their hands and just staying in worship as long as they can. But you have to pick up your kids.
You do.
Yeah. You know the drill.
I know the drill.
But you can just sense it in the room. There's a greater openness.
Yes.
And last year, I think me and some friends, we spent every Wednesday morning we could early gathering in Zoom and praying for church and praying especially for the evening service, because it was like they were not responding in worship, or we felt like I had to tell myself, okay, this is a mission field. It feels like sometimes just worshiping in front of a wall.
Yeah.
But something started to change, and we really noticed this since the beginning of the year, that God's presence is there, and especially during ministry time, even if people are not getting prayer, they're not leaving.
Yeah.
And we have a bar out, cafe bar area that's open in the evening, and usually before, when we've had a couple of worship songs, we say the service is officially over now. You can continue here in worship. We're going to continue with worship and prayer if you want that, and people would run for the bar. And you would be left there with like 3 people, like, yeah. And you're like, okay, how long are we going to sing now?
Yeah.
But now they're not leaving.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, we were like, what's going on? They look like zombies.
Yeah.
But they're staying. They're staying. They're just sitting there and enjoying the presence of God in a more reflective way, not expressing it the way that I would, maybe with my hands reached out or kneeling or something.
Yeah.
But it's very clear that God is doing something.
And
but
they're hungry.
They are hungry.
They're hungry to be near to God.
Yeah. And they will go for prayer.
Yeah.
But even if they don't, they will stay.
Yeah.
So we've had in the beginning, the people, usually we'd have some of the leadership would like go to the bar, and some would stay in to make sure, to kind of pass to the whatever was going on. And they would come like, did you say that the service was officially over? Were you clear enough in your communication, because no one's out there? And we just said, well, that's how it is.
Maria, I love this. Let me just frame this a different way. God is doing something at your church, and people are hungry for the Holy Spirit, so much so that they want to sit and worship rather than go and drink a beer afterwards.
Yes.
Profound. I would take that all day long. What a great thing, huh?
But they will still go and drink beer afterwards.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Don't
that's
worry.
Right. Yeah. By the way, for those of you who are listening, it would be worth you getting on the airplane and going to Copenhagen Vineyard on a Sunday, especially evening, just to go to your all's bar is so cool. Like in their church building, this blows Americans' brains, by the way. But in their church building, they have a cafe/bar, and they have amazing beers, and they have like amazing treats, and this cool seating area. I came home very jealous.
Really?
Very jealous.
I thought you had a cool church.
My church is like B-. It's B-, but you guys have an A+ bar, and I don't have it. And I came home very, very jealous. Plus, culturally in the States, that would be so taboo.
Mm-hmm.
That would blow people's brains.
But we learned it from the Brits.
It's an amazing idea. It's so good. So good. Maybe tell us just for a minute, is there anything else happening new, like in Copenhagen or in the Vineyard in the Nordic?
Well, besides that, we are doing the national camps for the first time.
Yeah.
And let me just add, we are testing it to see. We will probably gather again as a Nordic.
Yeah,
we just need to find out what would the frequency be like.
Yeah,
would
what's
it be
the
every
rhythm?
third year or every other or fourth? Our Nordic leader, Flemming Mølhede, is stepping down in the end of the year.
How long had Fleming led the Nordic?
Oh, that's a good question.
Years. Yeah.
Maybe
10?
Maybe 10.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
A long time. That's okay.
For a good while.
Yeah, that's right.
And because he will focus on Copenhagen Vineyard. So he's my leader in like 2 capacities.
Yes.
So he can focus on that locally, what's happening,
and who's going to take Fleming's place?
We don't know.
Okay, that's right.
So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, we're looking for white smoke, right?
Yeah.
Like the Pope.
We don't know how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting how God is moving pieces and parts around and see how things are going to land. Because every time something like this happens, something new can develop.
Yeah.
So what would it affect in the Nordic countries? How are we going to work together?
Yes.
What are the opportunities? What is God doing?
Well, we will pray.
So I think it's a very good thing that's going on.
Yeah.
I'm not nervous or worried. It's just that season of things changing.
I'll tell you what I hear in it, Maria. Part of what I hear is there's just something happening culturally wider in the Vineyard. And like, the U.S., we've just come through another national director transition.
Yeah.
So Jay Pathak now, Phil and Jan have retired from that spot. And in that transition, you're moving from baby boomers, and Jay's thoroughly Gen X. It's like, and there's a generational shift there. And then we kind of like we did a reorg. It's kind of a big deal in the U.S. And so there's these associate national director positions that are new for the first time, and many, if not all, I'm trying to think, many, if not all, the A&Ds that are new, they're all Gen X. And so there's a generational shift happening, and I don't think it's just U.S. I think that's my point here. It's just something happening right now. It's like God is saying there's some people letting go of some things that they were doing, and now there's going to be some new people who come in. Kind of like that story you were telling a moment ago, just about like COVID. COVID just kind of like reshuffled some stuff, and now we're looking around and going, who's leading what?
Yeah.
So we're all having to retrain and dig back into our values, aren't we?
Yeah, and look at our culture.
Yeah.
We have to build culture all over. We can't assume that people in our church have any clue of what we are talking about when we do worship. If we don't put words to it, or our values of compassion, all these things.
Yeah.
We need to be very aware of what we're doing.
Right. So are you guys kind of like in a situation where you're re-teaching Vineyard stuff again? Locally? I'm back to local here again, I guess.
Yeah. I think we're in a season where we're talking about it.
Yeah.
We don't have a specific plan, but we have been talking about how can we include our Vineyard DNA. Somehow we call it in...
Say it in Danish. Say it in Danish first. That'll just be fun.
We call it like word bingo. Like how do you?
Oh, like, yeah.
How do you score with like in an extra sentence? Put in something where you just teach.
Yeah, you're folding this in all the time.
Yeah, it's like when Dan Wild is called like the worship bombs.
Yeah, that's right.
Like just put something in, leave it there, and you keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's so good. So good. Well, Maria, it is so fun to actually sit in the room and talk with you. And I just want everybody to know, you've probably not been to the vineyards in the Nordic, but maybe you should.
Maybe you should.
Maybe you should. That's literally maybe you should. It's such a fun thing. Hey, thanks for coming back on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
Every
time. It was fun.
Every time. And if you ever have something you need to get out to the world, let's just put it on the pod, Maria.
All right.
All right, everybody. Peace.
Hey everyone, Casey Corum here, producer of the podcast. Thanks for listening. As always, if you've been enjoying the podcast, here's a few ways you can help us. First of all, leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice. This helps more people find us. Also, connect with us on social media. Instagram at the Ferment Podcast and Twitter at FermentCast. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Peace.